Hi. My son is officially 1. We are like 10 days past his first birthday, and I feel like I'm kind of late on expressing all of the thoughts and feelings and emotions about his birthday. But quite honestly, I could speak about his birthday, meaning my labor and delivery and meeting him for the first time. I could go on and 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 on forever about it. And I think the more that time passes, the more details I remember, the more I learn from the experience, the more like depth and breadth I gain from thinking about and processing and all the things that come with having a child. Hold on. Listen, baby, you can't be messing with my stuff. Hold on. I know you want every single little thing, but you can't have every single little thing. You can't. Okay? I'm sorry, but you can't. I guess that's what I'm gonna have to do. I do have cookies for you, baby. Always wants the cookies. He's just like his mother. Always wanting something sweet. I think I'm long overdue for kind of just letting it all out about my labor and delivery experience. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about giving birth to you, honey. So, he was born on a Monday. He was born Monday morning, February 12th, 2024. I'm gonna bring it back to the Wednesday before. I had been going to work like normal all the way through my pregnancy and going to regular checkups, making sure everything was good. Pregnancy went smoothly. Everything was fine. It was just like the days were going by, weeks were going by, months were going by. Pregnancy was progressing. And it finally got to the point where like I had my appointments every week and I was reaching full term and getting to a place of, okay, this baby can come at any point in time. Be ready. So Wednesday I go to work like normal. It's a good day. I'm waddling around doing what I can with the energy that I have. And I have an appointment. So I leave work, go to my appointment. They take my blood pressure and they're like, your blood pressure is a little bit elevated. We're gonna go through the rest of this appointment. We're gonna check you, do this and that, and then we'll do your blood pressure again at the end of the appointment. And if it's still elevated, we're gonna have to send you to the hospital because they were, because there's a risk of gestational diabetes. But not gestational diabetes. There was my mind, not gestational diabetes. I had already passed the glucose test earlier on in the pregnancy. I'm sorry. I'm talking about preeclampsia. There was a risk of preeclampsia. So they were like, if your blood pressure is still elevated, we're going to have to send you to the hospital for monitoring, take some tests to make sure that you are not at risk for that, to make sure that everything is going fine, smooth, everything's healthy, everybody is good to go. So I get sent to the hospital and I basically am laying in the bed with monitors on my belly and on my finger, and I have the blood pressure cuff on for nearly 3-4 hours. Just all of these extra noises. This is life now. I have a bag over there full of junk that I need to donate and he likes running into it for the sound. That's life with a baby, touching all my stuff, making all the noise. Now he's pushing into the birthing ball. Anyways, so I go, ultimately they do all the tests. I'm there at the hospital 3-4 hours. My blood pressure went back down. Everything's fine, normal, whatever. We go home, I go home. Thursday I go to work like normal. Friday I go to work like normal. And Friday was our Valentine's Day dance. We did it the Friday before Valentine's Day. And so jokingly, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the dance and I'm gonna dance this baby out. And there was a coworker at the time who was like, oh, I have the magic touch. Let me just rub your belly. And I promise that baby will come soon enough. And I was like, you know what? Rub my belly. Let's see if you actually have magic hands or not, whatever. And typically at that time, I was taking daily walks. I was walking all over campus, just trying to exercise, keep my body moving and flowing to help hopefully with the process of birthing this baby. I go to the dance, I dance a little bit, too tired, I go walking, the coworker rubs my belly, we're all kind of like joking, laughing, all in good spirits, and I finally make it back to my classroom, and I just had this feeling wash over me. I was like, I have done all that I can do here at my job to prepare the long-term sub to take over my position while I'm gone on maternity leave. My classroom is clean, lesson plans are set out, I've had a really good day, and I just had this feeling like I was not going to be returning to work. I just had this internal knowing that that was going to be my last day, that was going to be my last few moments in my classroom. I took a selfie and I got my stuff and I walked out for the weekend, just like everybody else. I was feeling things here and there. Now, mind you, the weekend prior, 2 weekends prior, it was like a pattern of feeling like slight discomfort, possibly contractions, but nothing strong enough to indicate I was going into labor. But my body, it was like my body was practicing. Like I could feel something happening in the 2 weekends prior. So now I'm leaving work, going home for the weekend, having felt this internal knowing that maybe most likely I would not be returning anytime soon. I get home Friday, go about normal business as far as I can remember. And that night, I had a surge of energy. Can you, what are you doing? I had a surge of energy where it was like I received this image in my mind, in my body. I hadn't made artwork that I felt truly connected to, at least not that I can remember now, at least not that I felt in the moment. But that Friday night, I had this like vision come to me, this surge of energy, this like inescapable, you need to draw this, you need to paint this right now, you need to get this out of you right now. And I'm doing this motion because it was like it just like shot down. It was just like whoop, right into me, right onto me. I could not do this drawing. I don't remember what time it was. I'll look at the timestamps. I have pictures. I'm gonna grab it. Let me show you now. Hold on. So I pull out my sketchbook and I pull out a pen and this gouache paint, and I just started drawing and started painting and just was going until I felt like it was complete and it was finished. And I just kind of sat back in the bed and was like, that was weird. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. Like, I typically get visions for artwork based on my experiences, my emotions, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, subconscious things arising within me, and I get these visions that I ultimately make into artwork in some way. But I don't think I've ever had such a vision that just like whoop, landed within me and had to come out right then and there. And so that was a very surreal experience, and it added to the experience of knowing that I wasn't going to be returning back to work. So that was Friday night. And all the while, I'm texting my mom, texting my sister, texting dad, and just like kind of keeping everybody updated about what I was feeling, how I was feeling, what's been going on with me, and what I was feeling like was happening. And I think on one hand, I was very conscious of my body. I was very conscious of this creative expression, but I wasn't quite, there wasn't a part of me that was like, I'm in labor. I'm about to have this baby. It was just, it was intuitive. It was fluid. It was just kind of happening in the moment, and I was present with it in the moment. You want to sit with me while I talk about you? You lost your shoe again. I ran out of cookie, Bubba. Sorry. Saturday, the next day, my mom came over to my house, and the main things that I remember is that we walked the neighborhood. I remember really wanting to just move my body. Like, again, it was just this internal knowing, this intuitive feeling like I need to move my body. I need to get active. So we ended up taking Xander for a walk around the neighborhood. I think we did it twice. We walked around twice. Just talking, walking, you know, thinking about life, you know, in the next few days, next few weeks as we welcome this baby. But we walked, came back to the house, and then I ended up doing yoga in the living room. And I had been doing yoga pretty consistently throughout my pregnancy. For the beginning, like twice a week, and then towards the end, once a week. And the farther along I got, the heavier I got, the slower I got, the harder it was to maneuver in the yoga poses. And I remember there being a few times where I was like going down into downward dog and not feeling quite well. And so there was a point in time where I stopped, maybe like a month before giving birth. But that Saturday, after the walk around the neighborhood, I just had this feeling again, like I need to stretch my body. I need to move my body. I just need to move. And so I did yoga in the living room, and it felt so good. And it was a really good Saturday. I remember feeling like it was a really beautiful, productive Saturday. Still not necessarily in labor or thinking that I was in labor. I wasn't having contractions that were painful or that were especially physically jarring. Like I was getting the, oh my God, I forgot the terminology, but maybe Braxton Hicks, or like I could feel my belly tensing up as far as like me touching the outside, but I didn't necessarily feel anything inside. And Sunday morning I woke up, I had a really good breakfast. I don't remember what I cooked, but I remember eating a really good breakfast, having my coffee like normal. And then slowly the contractions started. I remember feeling them and questioning them and not really knowing, like, is this, not really knowing, is this a contraction? Is this what I'm expecting to feel? Is this what I'm supposed to be tracking right now? I was feeling a lot happening in my body, and it reminded me of the 2 weeks prior, the feelings that I had had, but much more strong. The first contraction that I recorded on the app was at like maybe 10:30, 11 a.m. and I had been feeling them maybe 30, 40 minutes prior. And throughout the entirety of the day, I was tracking them. I was just relaxing, in and out of bed. I don't quite remember what all I was doing. I was probably TikToking, watching YouTube videos. I just remember going in and out of contractions, timing them, feeling them, updating family about them, trying to figure out the plan for getting to the hospital and being prepared to birth this baby. I was contracting, timing, and everything was kind of like, it wasn't consistent. It wasn't regular. It was like, okay, every 10 minutes I have one, and then every 6 minutes, and then 15 minutes would go by, and then 7 minutes would go by, and then 3 minutes would go by, and then another 15 minutes. So it was like very irregular. And the intensity was up and down. The timing was up and down. The length of them was up and down. Sometimes it felt like they were back to back. And it was just kind of odd to me. And again, I was in this headspace of like, okay, I I'm in a time frame where I could have this baby at any point in time. I've been described, or like I have read, I gotta get through this quickly. Okay, so I have read, right? I have read and I have heard and I've seen all these different references for contractions and what they should feel like, what you should be expecting, and what you should kind of look for before you choose to go to the hospital. Because one thing that I didn't want to do, and one thing that I had heard about several times over was, oh, I was in labor, I went to the hospital, I wasn't far enough along, they sent me home. And then I had to go back to the hospital and I had to have my baby in triage, or I had my baby in the car. You know, you see those stories of people popping their babies out on the way to the hospital when they had already been multiple times prior. So I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital and then be sent home if I'm not far along enough in my labor. That's how I felt. So I labored all day at home. It's Sunday, February 11th, 5:57 p.m. And I've been having contractions pretty much all day. Some longer than others, some more intense than others, some closer together than others. So it's been pretty irregular, but it's been enough for me to have to stop and close my eyes and breathe deeply. So I've been taking it pretty easy today, and yeah, that's just where I'm at right now. I'm about to go take a shower and get in the bed and relax and continue timing these and maybe call the midwife. I don't really know. I haven't lost my mucus plug. My waters haven't broken. I'm not contracting hard enough for me to scream. Like, they're not that bad, but they're definitely like noticeable enough to track. So that's where I'm at. We'll see. We'll see. I gotta figure out if I'm going to work tomorrow or not. I was at home swaying on the edge of the bed, side to side. I was deep breathing. I was squatting. I was sitting on the birthing ball. I was doing everything I could to make it through this labor experience. And to my credit, honestly, I think I did a damn good job. I really give credit to my yoga practice and that deep breathing, which I really need to get back to now because I struggle. But the deep breathing and the stretching. You want to go to the playroom? You just want to mess around in here, and I can't have you do that. I can't have you do that. I can't. There's too much stuff in here. Yeah, and then eventually it got to a point where I was timing everything and I couldn't like catch a good rhythm. Like, it wasn't consistent enough as they had said that I should expect. So I called the midwife on call and I told her, I was like, listen, I've been timing my contractions. This is kind of what it's looking like and feeling like. I don't know what to think of this. Like, obviously I'm full term and this baby could come now, possibly is coming, most likely is coming. Like, I don't know why I was in denial of that being my reality, but I've never done this before. So I was like, I don't know the breadth of the experience, right? Because my personal experience is what I'm feeling for the first time, but there are so much more experiences on the spectrum of labor and delivery that it's like, should I be waiting for more, expecting more? But again, it was an intuitive process that I was going through Friday night, Saturday, and now this Sunday. It was like a very intuitive experience. And so I was like very conscious of what was happening, but also questioning if I should be waiting or expecting more. Anyways, I called the midwife and I'm like, hey, I'm experiencing contractions. They're variable between 5 minutes 3 minutes, upwards of 10 minutes, lasting between a minute and a half and like 30 seconds. I don't really know what to expect of this. This boy is playing with wrapping paper right now. I'm gonna keep going. And the midwife, so very calmly, like stoically almost, is like, hey, you know, you may be going through prodromal labor. I understand. You just keep timing your contractions. And when they get down to 5 minutes apart, then I think you can head to the hospital. She's just like going on and like reassuring me, whatever. But ultimately she was like, if you want to come to the hospital and get checked just to make sure, just come on down. It's no problem whatsoever. I hung up the phone. I felt confident, and it was almost like having that conversation with her and getting that reassurance that everything was okay, that I was doing everything that I was supposed to do and needed to do to help myself, and that based on what I was saying, everything was fine and normal. It was almost like that was the reassurance that I needed to like surrender to the experience, because it was almost like I hung up the phone with her and my contractions started coming regularly on the dot, rapid frequency, one after the other, 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart. Dad was like, okay, when they get 3 minutes apart, we're going to the hospital or something like that. I don't remember the messages exactly, but he was like, when they're this far apart, we're leaving. So I gotta get that up, bud. So I'm still timing my contractions. They're getting more they're getting more difficult to withstand. I remember at some point I took a shower. I was contracting in the shower, which was really difficult. And I just went on with the day and the evening. I felt that reassurance from the on-call midwife. From that point on, contractions were back to back. The timing was getting tighter, frequency was getting tighter. And then we were preparing to go, we were preparing to leave the house to head to the hospital. And as I was like gathering myself and working my way through the... I'm talking about you, baby. I'm talking about you. You don't want to sit in the walker. You don't want to sit on my lap. That what? Mama's right here. As we're getting ready to leave to go to the hospital, I have the feeling like I need to use the bathroom. Like I need to take a Dad says, go ahead and go take a So I go to the bathroom and I relieve myself. It's that feeling that I have read about, heard about, that women get, that it's gonna feel like you have to poop, but really you're just in labor. And sure enough, it was both. But I go to use the bathroom, and when I go to take care of myself, the mucus plug revealed itself. That's when I think reality hit me that, okay, this is officially labor. I don't know why the contractions didn't do it for me. I don't know why anything at all beforehand, because I was in active labor and it just got progressively more active as the day went on. But it wasn't until I saw my mucus plug that I was like, oh, here we go, right? Because once that releases itself, then there's a certain amount of time that you have before you have to have the baby, right? Before the baby comes. That's just how it works. Anyways, we get in the car and we're driving to the hospital, and there's potholes and I'm contracting and there's music playing and we're talking, and we get to the hospital. I think we left the house around 10:45. got to the hospital maybe around 11:15, and then got checked in, and we got to the room. Everything was good spirits, still contracting, but like not screaming, crying in pain. Nothing was crazy, not yet anyways. They check me and they tell me, okay, I can't remember if it was 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 centimeters, somewhere in there. They were like, I think it was 6 to 7. They tell me you're 6 to 7 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that was farther along than I expected. And given how I handled laboring at home, it only made me all the more confident with the time that was coming. I don't know, there was something about having spent all day at home, making it to the hospital, and knowing how far along I was that in my brain let me know, like, okay, I'm making good timing. My body is doing the thing that it was designed to do, and it's doing it with ease. I don't want to say ease because it wasn't easy, but it didn't feel particularly hard. I don't know. This is the first time I'm saying this, so maybe I need to sit back and kind of process that a little bit, but it didn't feel particularly hard. It was painful. I struggled breathing through it and moving through it, and you know, there's a level of dissociation that happens between mind and body when you're feeling such a feeling, but I digress on that because I think I need to think about that a little bit more and process that. But 6 to 7 centimeters dilated when I get there. My mom shows up. I'm having a baby. And a contraction is starting right now, actually, as we speak. Oh! We end up getting the birthing pool set up, and that was delightful. The warm water in that birthing pool was delightful. Laboring in the water, it's nice, it's enjoyable, but of course, as the time goes on, the contractions are getting more intense and closer together. And there was a point in time where I was in the birthing pool and I felt like I had no other choice but to push. And everybody was telling me not to.
I figured that she was gonna start going fast, but
they checked me. I was not fully dilated, according to the nurse, but I had this internal intuitive feeling like I had to push, and it pissed me off in the moment. There was a moment where I was literally like, I feel like I have to push and you're telling me not to. What am I supposed to do? Like in the middle of contractions, and you're telling me, you're checking me, and it's painful and I'm not fully dilated, but I feel like I have to push, but you're telling me not to push. And it was just a moment of such frustration through this pain and this physical discomfort and someone checking me and the water being comfortable for my bottom half, but then I was cold up top. Ultimately, I transitioned through several contractions from the birthing pool to the bed, labored in the bed in different positions with different like balls and seats and different things to help with the positioning. And I labored and I labored. And there was one point in time during a rest period where my water broke. I had a contraction. I don't remember if it was in the middle of a contraction or what, but it was just this euphoric burst of water that just kind of shocked my system. And I don't know if I yelled or screamed or I just exclaimed. I was like, oh my God. And all the nurses came running in and everybody was like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? And I was like, my water just broke. And I think I said it felt like an orgasm. It was just such a weird, like beautifully weird and wild feeling of just like this gush of water coming out of me, this gush of fluid that I had no control over. I think it was one of those things where it's, you hear about childbirth, you learn about childbirth, and one of the main things that you always hear about is like, oh, you're water breaking. And when I was at home in labor, I didn't notice any water, no sort of splashing at home. But this like grand opening of of my womb in this bed, so beautifully. Like, it wasn't a traumatic thing, it wasn't like a scary thing, it just happened and it felt really good. But with the bursting of my waters came much more intense contractions. It was like everything ramped up another level. It was like, okay, water is broken, contractions need to start, this baby needs to make its way out. And it was like back to back to back contractions that were so much more intense, so much more painful than what I had been experiencing prior to my water breaking. At some point in time, I had a contraction so bad that it made me throw up, and I announced it. I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna throw up, and then barfed everywhere. At least in my mind, in my, visceral experience of this, it felt like I just barfed everywhere. They told me it wasn't that much, and they told me it didn't get everywhere. I don't know if they were just being nice to the lady in labor, or if it truly wasn't that bad at all, but it just felt like such a dramatic vomiting experience. But I only did it once, and I feel like it satisfied whatever need that was to expel that from my body. But it was so much more intense after my water broke, and it felt like an eternity. In the grand scheme of things, my laboring at the hospital was nearly 12 hours. Not 12 hours, it may have been 9 hours. We got to the hospital around 11 p.m. somewhere thereafter, and then I had my son at 9:15 a.m. So however much time that is how much I, labored and gave birth to my son. It was intense, and it felt like an eternity. There were several times where in the middle of contractions, in between contractions, I was asking, like, how much longer is this going to take? How much longer do I have to go? How much farther do I have to go? How much more pushing do I have to do?
Kind of hard to push around on her a lot longer. Oh, she's pushing. Make a +1. Okay.
What's going on?
So we're just trying to push this baby down. So it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Just kind of paving the way and helping you stretch your body.
Were you +1? Remember when you did all your reading about the spikes in the pelvic bone? Mm-hmm. So the baby's below that, which is good.
But those deep grunts that you give, that's what's really putting that pressure on the baby. Do you need to scooch back and get some blood flow to your legs for a second? Yeah. So just lift a little bit, scoot your bottom back.
And mind you, I did this all unmedicated. It was my goal to have a completely unmedicated birth. I wanted to feel the full range of physical, emotional, mental feelings of this experience. I had had a beautiful, smooth, and easy physical pregnancy with no complications, and I was confident that I would be able to give birth to my son without any medication. And I wanted that for myself, and in a way I trained for that. And so in the process of this, I'm feeling the full experience. I am fully, deeply in it. But I got to a point where I was not questioning my decision to not have the medication, and not questioning whether I should get the medication, but just questioning where I was in the time frame of this experience. If anybody could tell me, I don't think anybody could have told me. I think it was something that I just had to feel myself and had to go through myself. But in reality, it was not that long. When I look at the pictures and the videos, it's like, okay, we can see the baby's head at this time, and then 20 minutes later, he's born. It may have only been 20 minutes, but it felt forever. It felt like it was taking a very long time. It just felt like a long, like it just felt like the seconds were much longer than I had ever experienced. There was a level of dissociation where it felt like my soul had left my body and was like watching myself from above or from like outside of myself. It was like my energy, my soul was like this aura around me that was observing the experience. And for most of the time, my eyes were closed. And a lot of my memories from my son's birth are like burst. It was like my eyes are closed. I'm going through the contractions. I'm bracing myself. I'm breathing deeply. I'm pushing. The contraction eases and I'm resting. And all throughout that timing, like every now and then my eyes are opening so I can see what's happening around me. So I can see my family members. So I can see the nurses. So I can see the midwife. And then I'm closing my eyes again to go back into myself in preparation for the next one. It just felt like these fast waves of contractions, rest, open my eyes to see what's happening, collect information, to like remember that my body is here, and then go back into it. And that's like how I remember a lot of the experience. I tried multiple different positions during labor. At one point I was like squatting with the bar, but I think the bar didn't help. But what did help, and how ultimately I gave birth to my son, was with like tug of war. The midwife suggested it, and I could rave on and on about, and I will rave on and on about this midwife who took care of us, who took care of me, who delivered my son, who helped his dad deliver him. She was incredible. But she suggested tug of war, right? So somebody tied a sheet. I had one end of the sheet. Dad had the other end of the sheet. And every time I had a contraction, I pulled that sheet and Dad held on at the other end. And I pulled and I braced down and I pushed. And I would release. And so we did that. We did that for what felt like an eternity, forever. It felt like such a long time. And that was our process, was me contracting and pulling and him just holding on. The midwife was explaining to me, okay, you're going to push as if you're, I don't remember the exact words, but she was explaining to me. And so I'm actively in my mind trying to use the muscles of my body and kind of help my body do what it's already naturally doing. But I asked for a mirror. It was part of my birth plan to have a mirror, so that I could see. I wanted to see myself give birth to my son. I wanted to see him come from me. And so I was pushing and pulling, with the tug of war. I was pushing in my body, but it wasn't until that mirror was placed in front of me that I could see my body actively
go. Look at your baby, Jasmine. Go.
Pushing my son into this world. Him like slowly emerging, and then I feel like I'm in the visions, right, in my head now. And I wish I could show you. I could see my son being born. I could see how the coaching that the midwife and the nurses were giving me, and how I was taking their instruction and moving my body in a way that was allowing my son to pass through me, to come into this world. And I could see it happening in this mirror that was placed to reflect that for me. And that was is the most incredible visual experiences that I have ever experienced in my life. I wanted that for myself. I needed that for myself. I needed that visual experience. But I didn't realize until that moment how helpful it was for me to see me actively taking direction to do what I needed to do to help my son be born. And when I was able to have that visual and it was able to kind of triangulate all the information together, right? What my body is intuitively doing, what my mind and what my heart is seeing of this scenario, this experience, this room, right, of people, what the nurse and the midwife are telling me and what I'm visually seeing, it was like it helped everything streamline so that the process became smoother and easier. There was a point in time where I birthed my son's head. And mind you, at the time, we didn't know it was a boy. We didn't know it was going to be my son. We had not known the gender throughout the whole pregnancy. So I birthed this baby's head. And I had remember her hearing and reading about and learning about the Ring of Fire. And to me, it didn't feel like the Ring of Fire, but I associated like, okay, maybe this is the feeling that people have talked about, right? Like when you're crowning, right? Because you're pushing and the baby is coming and they're slowly maneuvering their way through the birth canal, right? And your vagina is opening, your vulva is opening to release them. And there was this feeling with the birthing of his head that sent me into hyperventilation.
Good job. I know you're doing all that pressure. That's it. Relax it back. Slow this down.
Like it was just like a... And I wasn't freaking out. From what I remember, I wasn't freaking out. I wasn't like, oh my God, what is happening? It was just this physical sensation of the head being born that sent my body into a somatic panic, I suppose, right? And so I'm starting to hyperventilate. I'm starting to lose the control of my breath that I had had to get this far. And in this moment, with my eyes closed and my soul above me watching, a nurse, and to this day, I cannot picture her. I have pictures of the nurses that were there and I can't pick out who it was that did this, but the nurse that was standing closest to me, like up by my head and chest area, laid her hand on my chest. I don't recall her saying anything to me, anybody saying anything to me. It was like it was quiet. But I'm hyperventilating, the head is born, I'm hyperventilating, and this nurse just puts her hand on my chest. And that was all it took to relax me and to let me know that it was okay, that everything was okay, that I was good. She just put her hand on my chest. And I took a deep breath just like that. And I waited for the next contraction to continue pushing.
Yes, 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 yes.
Hey, can we get a baby
So
nurse?
good.
Thank you.
Slow and easy.
And probably at that point, several seconds later, my son was born. It had to have been. That's how I remember it. That's how I feel it. But it was just this like stable, reassuring touch, calming touch. It felt like God could have touched me themselves. I don't know. That nurse, I wish I had, granted, given the context of everything, right? Like I'm literally giving birth to my son, but there's a small part of me that wishes I had opened my eyes to see who it was, to remember forever who this person was that did that, because it had such a great impact on my experience that I wish I could thank her forever. But it felt like an immediate shift from head is born, hyperventilating, hand on chest to calm me down, more contractions coming, my son is born. And so the midwife helps dad deliver our son. I'm watching all of this down below, and they've got him, and he's this slimy, squishy little thing, and he's beautiful, and I still don't know if it's a boy or a girl.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, you want to pass the baby up there to mama? Oh.
And dad says, it's a boy, and everybody in the room goes, it's a boy, baby.
A boy. You knew it, huh? Oh my gosh, Jasmine, you did amazing.
And I'm like, oh my God, I have a son. Like, oh my God, it was the most beautiful moment of my life. My son was born. He was so beautiful, the most beautiful baby I've ever seen in my life. It didn't matter what this baby could have come out like. Oh my God, he had a full head of hair. And according to dad, he came out with his eyes wide open. He kept joking like, yeah, he came out staring at me. Eyes wide open, head full of hair. Beautiful, beautiful little baby that I had grown for 9 months, that I just spent the last 24 hours laboring and pushing forward and bringing forth earthside. And it was the most incredible experience of my life, the most beautiful experience of my life. I was laughing and crying and just thanking God.
He's just saying hello, mama. Oh, I know. I know. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hi. You are gorgeous.
Did you expect anything else?
I don't know.
Hair.
That motherfucker popped out. I like me.
I told you, it doesn't look like they're very big, and then the rest of their head comes on. You're like, oh, God.
Keep rubbing him. Keep rubbing him.
You just have one little spot here that's using. I'm trying to put some pressure on it. I don't think you're going to need any stitches.
Oh,
Daddy did such a good job. Mama's good control, and Daddy's good hands.
Just so grateful and thankful and just so amazed and completely in awe of him. And it's a little strange to even talk about this and to express myself and to get so excited about it now, because in some ways it's really hard to remember those early moments, because it was such a shock to the system. It was such a shock to my body. It was like my soul was above me watching the experience while my physical body was going through it. And it was like as soon as he was born, it was like, you know, the fusion again, and I was back, and the pain had subsided, the contractions had stopped, and it was unlike anything I have ever experienced, and probably will ever experience again in my life unless I decide to do it again. But I to this day, I'm still kind of in shock. And you know, when I close my eyes and I'm reliving the moments in my memories, it's just surreal. And I've been saying that about the pregnancy, every little bit of the pregnancy, the birth, his birth, my labor experience, my delivery experience. It's all been so surreal. I don't think anybody could ever truly understand until they go through it themselves or they're a witness to it themselves. I'm just I don't know. I'm truly, 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 deeply moved and changed and shifted as a woman, as myself, as a mother from this experience. It was just truly incredible and truly awesome and truly beautiful and the best day of my life. That's my labor and delivery story. That's the gist of it. I know that's a long story. That's not the gist. It's the whole thing. Right now at this point he's born, and I'm reveling in this beauty and this wonder and enjoying every little bit and staring at him and talking to him.
So beautiful, I know. Those are your fingers.
And just trying to figure out how to be me now with this little child, right? Because prior I was me and the baby was inside and everything was taken care of, but now I'm me and my child is here and I see them and I feel them and they see me and they feel me, and now I'm required to care for this child for the rest of their life, for the rest of my life, for as long as I possibly can. That is a whole other experience in itself, of that transition from one to two, and there being the separation between us now. Oh, that hurts my heart. But like the feeling of your child being safe within your body, of my son being safe within me and knowing that he was good there, to him now being earthside and me having this responsibility to keep him safe from the world, and me now having an extension of myself, and me now not just living for myself anymore. That thought process wasn't necessarily conscious, not at the time, but immediately after his birth, when I have him, and I'm completely enveloped in the fact that I have him now. Everything shifted, everything changed for the better, and it's just it was incredible. It was truly incredible. And at this point in time, I've made it to a year of motherhood. My son is 1. He is walking, talking. He's got 4 teeth. He loves food. He's learning to climb. He's given me attitude already. But he is truly incredible and the biggest blessing of my life. And I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for doing what I wanted to do and for believing in myself when I needed it most, and pushing through one of the most beautiful and equally painful times of my life. And now being on the other side, I'm I don't know, I feel like I can go on forever, but I guess ultimately my main point that I'm going to end with is that I had a vision for myself when it came to my pregnancy, when it came to my birthing experience. I truly feel like I have evolved into a version of myself that I had been wishing for, and that I had been longing for, and that I had wanted, but was also fearful in a way of doing what needed to be done to meet that version of myself. And part of that was becoming a mother to the child that came to me during this time. And I'm forever grateful for that. How many times have I said that already? I'll say it 1,000 more, but I'm a mother. I'm a MILF. And I love this life with my little boy, and I am truly grateful for the experience. I'm incredibly proud of myself for having gone through it. And if there's anybody out there thinking of going through pregnancy, having a child of their own, do yourself a favor and believe in yourself wholeheartedly. thank you for listening and watching and for supporting me. I don't know if I missed anything. I probably missed a few details that I really liked. If you have any questions about my experience, my story, recommendations, you know, things that I could offer about my experience or through my experience, just let me know down in the comments. I feel like I could go on and on and on and on and on about my pregnancy and my labor and delivery and motherhood. I feel like it is something that I always wanted and something that now that I'm living it feels right, and I'm very excited about how I could possibly share and help others through their own experience, if at all possible. Even if just my words hit you in a way that make you feel something, that inspire you, that you resonate with, that's all I'm aiming for here. But just let me know. I'm here, and soon enough I'll have more things to share about. So I'll see you then. Thank you.